sit in front of the TV when you can be on the radio?
Do you know where the remote is? I looked all over the house.
Slow down, Tito. Slow down, Tito. Damn! Is that my that's sitting on the curb?
What's up, guys? Hey, I'm back for another episode of Transparency. Robert Smith. As always, here to be transparent with different, have everyday conversations with different people from all walks of life, backgrounds, and unfortunately, some millennials are going to be on this episode. So, yeah, looking forward to that. I'm excited. Today's a new week. I mean, it's like the end of the week, technically, but I'm excited to have a good conversation. Well, actually, I was saying I'm not too excited because our topic today is covering depression. Depression is super negative and it just comes with a lot of emotions, and we're just going to dive into it. Remember, anything that we cover is definitely bring awareness, and maybe someone's out there needs to hear this. So hopefully we can cover some good things for those people that are eager to dive into this. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm here with my good guest, Abel. Abel, what's up? Speak to the people.
What's up, man? Abel, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited for you to be here. I'm super appreciative. And you actually came up with the topic, depression itself, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
You had a lot of options.
Like I told you, when I was driving over here, I was like, damn, why'd I end up with depression? That's going to be a hard one.
Yeah. But, I think it's a necessity conversation. One thing I like about my podcast is that I want to definitely touch on things that are very taboo. Things that are definitely unique. And I think we're so far going a good route. And I think you choosing that is going to be really good. So I'm really excited to go dive into this. So let's just get started. Depression itself. I mean, when's the last time you cried?
Dang. Okay. I would say back like 2 months ago.
Exactly 2 months ago. And what was the reason you had to share it?
That was because of my grandfather who passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That was a pretty rough time. As far as, let's say, like maybe depression, I would say back in February.
February?
Yeah.
I'm just going to put you on pause real quick. I'm so sorry. I forgot to introduce, as always, my producer, Nate. He's in the background. He's like, yo, I'm chilling here. Nate does a lot of mechanical things in the back end for this, and so we're good. So if you guys hear him jump on, that is not Casper. That is Nathan Torres, Space Kaiju himself.
Nate's awesome.
Thank you very much.
With that being said, okay, so it's been a while since you've been depressed, and unfortunate events. You cried the last time your grandfather passed. I think for me, I guess I'll just answer that. I don't know. Yesterday, no. Well, I usually schedule in around Thursdays. No, I'm more emotional than an average person. Hint. So, and I'm aware of that. One thing about me, I'm very aware of who I am. So, I take on things a little bit different. So some things make me a little upset, but I'll just share with this. I've actually found out that I'm being sued last week.
Wow.
So I got served for an accident that I was in 2 years ago. That wasn't my fault.
Is that what you were talking about at work?
Yeah, so I'm just have a lot on my plate right now. So that was really upsetting. I remember the reason why it makes me upset and I cried because I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that this happens because I was part of a 10-car pileup and I was the last car because a car hit a car and I had no choice. What more was traumatizing and really bad about it was that my nephew was in the car. He was only 3 years old. And he would not be here if he didn't have a seatbelt on. So I'm really praise God, and I'm happy that I'm good. I did suffer concussion, and unfortunately, I do suffer a minor PTSD. So I didn't know I did until I was driving and something happened, and I was freaking out to a point I couldn't even drive. It definitely affected me physically. I was shaking. It was this whole, I don't want to dive in, but it was crazy. But overall, it was a lot. So that's something I was dealing with, and depression itself. Now you haven't had it in a while. You're a good state of mind. Would you say right now?
No, I would say that I haven't cried in a while.
Okay.
I don't cry often.
Okay.
But I do feel I battle depression.
Okay.
Honestly, daily, weekly.
I'm really happy you said that because I didn't know if you're going to say that. I think a lot of people are not really accountable how sometimes our emotions can fluctuate, It really is like by the hour,
It could be by the minute.
It really could. And I
Yeah.
think that sometimes if we were in the 80s or maybe even hardcore the 50s, if we were to say that would be so taboo, you know? But we need to bring awareness just how unstable, like mental health is really important, you know? And that's something that doesn't get talked, especially you being, you know, us being a minority community. It's definitely like, get your shit together, you know? Like, why are you acting like this, you know? But it is true. And I think for me, you know, I was heavily medicated as a kid. I was adopted, so I was with someone who wasn't primary who wasn't my biological mother. With that being said, they heavily medicated me. Oh God, it makes me sad. Sorry, so I'm getting emotional. So, because I was medicated 3 times a day, 3 pills. So it was 9 pills a day, and it was like Ritalin, these hardcore things. I don't remember what they call it, and that made me super depressed. I remember It was like a shell. It was like a glass box, and I was banging because these medicine were like kind of holding me down, and they were like just doing a lot for me. So, it was hard, man. It was hard as a kid. And for someone like me, growing up with the issue of not having my parents and that sense of abandonment and all these other things that I was going through, the medicine wasn't helping, which they just did it to kind of calm me because maybe I was hyperactive. But it led me to depression really hardcore, to the point where I was younger and I have a bad posture because I will always walk with my head down. I didn't see the point of walking with my head up. I was so petrified of the world as a kid. As outgoing as I am,
crazy.
I was so scared. I remember, man,
You're very outgoing.
I'm very outgoing. It's funny story. So I was very, one time my mom will always encourage me, hey, go across the street, go get you some food.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to. I used to think like people will look at me and they talk about me, how I walk funny, how I act, like how I'm looking. And I was just so scared. I remember it would be like simultaneously.
Jeez. So you felt like you couldn't even leave your house.
Honestly, with school and back, I didn't do any social activities compared to my my siblings.
Jeez.
I was really, we would go to Louisiana. We said that earlier. We would go to Louisiana for like summer vacation, and you know, to go out, like my siblings would go to church, and I didn't want to because with the thought of meeting people, I didn't want to do that.
I know you're from Louisiana.
Well, my family's from there, so yeah. And speeding up, it was a breakthrough. High school, I knew. By 14, I just stopped the medication. I was like, no, I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm tired of feeling like that. I did feel a sense of a breakthrough, of awakening in myself, and I felt like I was getting back to normal. In high school, the last year, I had you know what? I changed schools. I went to Redlands East Valley. I know that's really far. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this antisocial. I have so much personality here, and I think I'm funny. And I don't know I want to be transparent, and I want people to see that. I remember one day I went home and I just changed clothes. I kind of changed the way I looked. I was like, I'm ready. I remember I looked different. I walked up and I just can see the world.
Wow.
And I went to high school and I remember these people noticed me. They're like, hey, you're new, right? And I was like, yeah, I just started. They're like, you want us to show you around? And I was like, yeah. And it was kind of like the Mean Girls scene when they show like all the cool kids. It was kind of just like that. And from there on, I became more social. And that's who you are seeing right now, this outgoing, bubbly personality. But in a time long ago, I was not like that. I'm not who you were seeing right now. So, yeah.
Well, I'm happy that you were able to break out of that and just really... Knowing you, I think you're such a cool person, so it's cool to see how far you've come.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Now, for you, you have mentioned daily. How do you cope with that? Like, do you have triggers too?
So I would say certain things for me, just really growing up. I came from a divorced family. Okay. My mom cheated on my dad, left us when we were young.
How old were you when it happened?
It started when I was maybe like in 4th, 5th grade. And I would see a lot of pretty bad things. So maybe at that time I didn't really know what was going on. But as I got older and when I really just got into middle school, I just started realizing that my mindset and the way that I was a lot different than other people. I felt kind of like how you said, very trapped as far as to, I was always putting on a front. I've always been like the class clown, trying to really make jokes. And I guess that's why some people can say I'm very unemotional. I've kind of learned to really I try to fight it, but naturally my instincts is just to really not invest any emotion or try to invest any of my emotion into anything. So I feel that daily I still have to, a lot of things mentally kind of stick with me from what I was around growing up.
Okay. It's kind of speeding up to right now. You're married. You're very young. You're very young. You're 22.
23.
23, sorry.
I wish I was 22.
And you actually have a son. You have a 1-year-old son, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Shout out to Luca, cutest kid.
Cute little Luca, yeah.
Dude, he's such a cute kid.
Thank you.
How you having a wife and married so young, have you completely opened up and been like very vulnerable with her about with your emotions and you kind of like feeling this way?
Yeah. I feel that definitely one of the big parts of my life as to where I really catapulted me to kind of having a stronger mindset, I guess, feeling more at peace was actually meeting my wife. She met me like out of, when I was really bad. She's known me since I've been doing it back in when it was the worst, which was about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And up until I would say even maybe this past year has really just been like the year for me. But aside from that, I was really dealing with it up until like last year. So with her, she's seen a lot and it's very open. Yeah.
That's really good. That's a huge blessing, able for to be able to have someone who can support you in that way. And I really appreciate you. I know it's too early, I'm thanking you, but I really appreciate you just sharing that because I think it's important to, a lot of times because we're married, we have to put on this front because we know we have to care. I don't know this, but you know that you have to carry not only yourself, but your son and your wife, for the support. And sometimes women can be turned off by a demasculine man, and I'm not saying that by you going through periodic periods of being depressed is the masculine, but for other people, they can look at it like that and can be a huge turn off. So it's really good that you have that, that connection with your wife who supports you in that way. I really hope that like you guys continue to grow and, a lot of this can be talked about more because it isn't something that can be fixed overnight,
Definitely no.
Yeah, it's really good with your journey. I think like I can relate to you, like you said, still, mine's is like a roller coaster. I'm more like emotional than the average, like I mentioned. So I take things a lot personal, but it only becomes from what I've been through in my life. For me, not having certain things, I didn't really have like a stable family growing up. So I really value my friends. And when I fight with my friends, man, I get so distraught. Like I lose it. Like one time I got into an argument with one of my friends and it was pretty bad. It was the first time we ever disagreed and I was just done. I remember this is 2 years ago and I was just done. It was just a leading up factor where I was just like, can't do this anymore. And I remember just driving, but I was pressing the gas like really, really bad. My car, you already know like how I drive.
Yeah,
it was
you drive pretty
worse.
scary.
So it must have been God. And he was like, call one of my friends. His name is Christian Rodriguez. Dang, I hope he's listening. He's such a dope dude. I don't know why I called him, but I was like, hey, I just wanted to see what you're up to. He's like, yeah, man, what's up? I'm out. We just run errands. And he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, oh no, I'm good. I get really, as a defense mechanism, I try to beat people to something negative. It's just weird. So I'm always like, I will always lie when anything's wrong. I'm like, oh no, I'm good. And I stutter. I do all that crap. So I was like, he was like, no. He's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I'm just not feeling with it. And I remember, what did I say? I remember I said something and he told me to pull over and just stay there. And he's like, don't matter what. He just knew. He just pulled over and stayed there. And he came like in 15 minutes. I think he was in Pomona. I was in La Puente. He just dropped what he's doing. And
what a good friend.
Yeah. Because bluntly speaking, I was trying to commit suicide.
Wow.
With no cares. I think it gets really bad. I think I just want the pain to go away. Sometimes I feel like in life, it gives you so much that you can't handle. But I know that's a lie because like in the Bible, it says it's never going to give us too much we can't handle,
I don't know. I just heard about that and I could be wrong. But from my pastor last week, she said that that's not even in the Bible. That like she's read the Bible numerous times and nowhere it says that. And she says God gives us more than we can handle, so we can rely on Him. I don't know.
I think that's important too. I think that we are all designed different as humans. We all have our different lives. And what's really unique is that we were made to be in control of our lives with, I believe, my opinion, with God, to help us in that way. Only our lives we can live. We can never live anybody else's life. And with that life, everything that comes in our lives, from the burdens, the trials, the tribulations, the things that we're going through, it can never be too much because we're designed to tackle it no matter what's going on. Can you just imagine that and grasp that?
It's incredible.
It's incredible. And I think of people like who really go through more severe stuff from like slavery or poverty areas, and how they are, when you see them, they're not feeling as emotional, as sad as we see. Like, oh no, like we see them, we cry, like, we're sad, go through. And somehow they're able to carry that and go out their day, because at the end of the day, they're able to live, they're designed to live their life in that, not in that way, God forbid.
No.
I just like to carry on that strength to like do that. But man, depression is something else.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And as far as what you were saying earlier, that I do think that there is a negative, I guess, connotation with having depression as a male.
Yeah.
So when you did say that, I think that's a very big point too, as even like I've been very outspoken with my wife and my family, that one of my goals one day is to be like a public speaker and help people who have kind of gone through similar trials as me, or, different things that affected them as they were young, and let them know that you can still achieve anything you want.
Yeah.
And I think that, most people just have a negative thought about being depressed. And I truly think that most people have it. It's just something that's not really brought up, like you said earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really important. I definitely want to bring awareness, especially like I said, in the minority community, we are up. Like, this is like, get up, like go fix it, and, go smoke something, go drink something.
Take a pill.
I mean, really. And that's like the encouragement alternative from these backgrounds, me being from an area like that really is the suggested alternative. I have had my sister told me, go smoke something, like you're tripping, and I don't know how to like, no, I can't,
I've gone to numerous therapists, and all they ever try to do is, I feel like, prescribe me something.
Yeah.
And then I tell my wife, I don't want to go back. Like, they always tell me right away,
yeah.
Oh, do you want something? I'm just like, no.
So it's funny that you say that, because I have avoided therapists because I've been through so many as a kid, just for the simple fact I don't want to go back to being medicated. I really feel like I'm chained. Like,
I believe they truly pressure that.
I don't even think medication is a necessity. Mm-mm. I mean, in generations, we were able to get through it before. Even though we are getting tackled on more problems and being more mature at an early young age, still, I think people survive,
Yeah, I think that when you are open and you understand and actually look in the mirror, and because I think it takes a long time to admit that you actually struggle with depression. I think that's huge, because for so long, I used to tell people that I would confide with and tell them, no, it's just, I'm just going through things. Like, I didn't want to admit that I had depression. So I think that, that's definitely something that is hard to do, and really admit. And once you admit, I think that's when you can try to, like you said, tackle through it. Yeah.
That's really important. That's really good. Because the only first step is, it's admitting that you have this. Now I want to kind of go back to the masculine image of like dealing with depression. Now, do you being so vocal and you expressing to your family, maybe your friends, how you are, do you ever get encountered like to say like, well, man up, like, bro, like quit trip, like, in that way, like just kind of brush it off? Do you get that?
I've gotten that from like my dad.
Okay.
Who's a very manly man.
Alpha male.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
But mostly, I'll be completely honest with you, I'm just a very real, genuine person. And I've had deep conversations with my friends, family members, and they've always been very receptive, and they always confide in me. I honestly, maybe someone from the outside can say, hey, he's not masculine.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my face, I've never had nobody tell me anything like that. Generally, I think everyone, maybe they won't admit they have depression, but they battle, certain, states of minds daily
Yeah.
or, weekly or whatever it may be. So I haven't experienced anything like that firsthand.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For me, yeah, especially when I was younger, I will always be like, man up, or like, why are you whining? But I was also
It's a choice.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
choice. But unfortunately, I was a product of my environment, growing up in
Same.
environment. So it was pretty like hostile. And it was the mentality of like, why, like, no, whatever you're talking about doesn't exist. You need to just get that, like, grow up, get past that. Yeah. And like, as far as things coping, bro, I think when I'm depressed, like I shut down. When I shut down, my typical day is just being in bed all day.
Yeah, I've done that.
All day.
I don't even want to leave the room.
Don't even leave.
Just feel, it sucks too when you wake up that way.
Yeah.
Have you ever just woken up that way and you're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that hard reminder of like what you're going through. And I get upset because I have to eat, unfortunately. And sometimes I'll just eat like once a day, but it's only because forced. Even in the restaurant, I'm just like, oh, I have to get up, and I just rather stay in bed, turn over. But you know what? It's just really tough. That's something I do. So are you the same way? Like when you get hardcore?
When I've been hardcore, yeah, I don't want to leave. It'll last for a few hours.
Uh-huh.
It used to be, honestly, there was a point where I was depressed for like over a year. I would say years, every single day, where I would not leave my room. I would come home like at 2:00 every day, so I didn't have to talk to my parents. I wouldn't talk to my brother and sister. I would lock myself in the room. Like there was a point where I was very bad, and that I didn't even try to cope with it. I just let it consume me. Now I think just naturally, I have a great wife. I had success with like work and things like that.
Yeah.
I think my son has really catapulted me like to another level, as to where a lot of times I'm not really thinking about myself. I'm constantly thinking about him. So it kind of distracts me.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot, like just the other day, I was just in a crappy mood and I just was thinking about like a lot of mistakes that I've made, certain things I could have changed. I'm always thinking about the past, and that's like a constant issue that I've had. And I think that's what causes a lot of my depression.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. Have you ever cut yourself?
No,
That's good.
I'm too scared for that.
Have you ever tried to commit suicide?
No,
That's good.
I've like have thoughts about it and how to do it, and have like had some dark thoughts, but I've never actually like tried. I think for me, my dad's very religious. I grew up in church, and I think that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
That's a whole, but yeah, so I think that really, ever since I was young, they would always say depression would make you go to hell.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that? Or not depression, suicide.
Suicide. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
suicide.
suicide would make you go to hell. So I was always like just scared of that, because I felt like being that instilled in me since I was so young. I always thought that was like even worse than being on earth. So
That's crazy. Yeah, that's funny because with the religion thing, I was always like, oh man, if I do this, I'm gonna go straight there.
yeah, that's the first thing that pops in your head.
And then I'm like, this is hell too. Dude.
Hell's
Like,
worse,
like,
right? So I don't know.
Oh my god, I don't know. Like flip a coin. No, so
But then you're just like, fuck, screw life.
Can I
Yeah.
pitch something to you
yeah,
real quick?
go ahead.
So I've got a quote that I personally have been working on. Like I came up with it, like just been sitting and thinking. And it says, without self-reflection and being consciously aware of yourself, a mirror is a useless tool in seeing who you really are. So with that being said, I pose this question to you guys. How much of the depression that you guys have is of the cause of looking in the mirror and thinking about what other people think of you?
That's a great question.
It's a good question. Yeah, I can say, unfortunately with society nowadays, everything is about like what's going on with you, and it's more like earning incentives as far as likes or that confirmation from people, like they approve of you in a way. And social media has definitely like really wrecked people's lives because it's something that increases that needing for confirmation, that need for look to be analyzed and
Instant gratification.
Yeah, and no, though people are differently, people don't really look at it like that. I think that it's very common nowadays that people look for someone like that. For me, I definitely grew out of that. I've grown apart from that. I think early on, I cared so much what people think. I cared like everything. I valued it, and I felt like it was because I did something wrong. It was my fault, or yeah, I definitely look like that. What about you?
Yeah, the reason I love that question is because I always kind of preach this. First off, as far as pertaining to like the actual question, I do feel that there were a lot of times, and even now to this day, that I can just look in the mirror and just be like, damn, I wish I was this, or why wasn't I like that? And then, tying that into social media and different things, I believe that really has caused a spike in depression, being that you're just able to always compare yourself to someone. I mean, it constantly updates every second, new images every second. So I think that, like back then, in 80s, 90s, early 90s, early 2000s, you didn't have social media like that. You weren't able to, the only people you would see is people you would see in real life. That was it. That's how you would meet someone. So I think now being able to see millions of people throughout a year and just constantly compare yourself, that's very dangerous.
And that's also what I was telling you in the beginning, when we were off air, about the tribe, about
dreams.
That getting into that part, but also like that we're getting used to being consumed by a lot of people, when in reality back in the day we would only know the people in the tribe. So just imagine like the depression that people would get now, like being just around too much people.
It's dangerous. I think it's dangerous, honestly.
Yeah, it is dangerous. That was a really good question. I think that it can be tough though, because self-reflecting, it can really, that's how depression starts. Shit. When I look in that mirror, I'm like, dang. It's like you let yourself go.
It's always self-reflecting.
Yeah, it's tough, man. And I just, you know what, I always been my worst enemy, and I still struggle with that today. I'm so hard on myself, and I get to the point where I don't even care. I don't care. I'm like, you know what, I don't even care about you. I don't know what you're doing. I don't even care. I get that.
I get crazy.
You know why? And I get that because I feel like sometimes that's what I receive. And I'm like, what's the point? What's the point of caring for myself if other people don't even care about it? And it goes back to that validation that I needed from people, Yeah. But you know what, man? What really helped me triumph through my depression is God. Like really diving into church, connecting with people, and just, if I didn't know the guy named Christian, he was from church, what would have happened to Robert today, Like, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for moments like that. It's tough. I'm really happy. Church has really filled a lot of voids in my life too. And I can always think of like quotes and just think of like God's love towards me that makes me feel validated, where I can somewhat climb out of this depression, And I believe that's what not necessarily Christianity, but there's the relationship with God is all about,
Yeah, I think that I would say there was a time where I really didn't have like any depression for, I would say, maybe 7-8 months, like consistent, where I didn't have any bad thoughts. Literally every day I was happy. Like it was crazy. And during that time, I was really like into, God and going to church, reading the Bible every day, going to church twice a week. And I don't know, maybe, I don't know if it's just knowing that God is there to always rely on, and knowing that he loves you for who you are, that's what really made me feel at peace. I don't say I have that relationship anymore, but at that point I felt really, really just happy and at peace. And I think that God plays a huge factor into, I would say, trying to mitigate that depression.
Okay.
Can I ask you guys both a question real quick? Because you both said that when you're going to church, you feel a lot more happier.
Yeah.
Now, when you go to church, I know that, God and the word of God brings you happiness, but do you like get happiness from people and communicating and learning from other people and seeing what perspectives they have and how you can relate to them and maybe not relate to them? Is that at all, like, I know like the community part of it, is that at all making you guys happy? Because I want to see if I can translate it to I've been depressed. I kind of still am from time to time.
Yeah,
And
I definitely want to touch on that too.
and I think that podcasting has saved my life, most of it, because I've listened to people and listening to every different type of perspective and different person from different types of walks of the earth, and just listening and seeing how I can relate or maybe pick up on things that, that are similar or different, just observing that kind of stuff brings me happiness, because I know that I'm not alone. I know that we are all different, that we are all going through different things, painful things, happy things. And that's just the ebbs and flows of life, but I want to know if God is the one that's making that you happy with his word and being there for you, or is it the community base that you guys are, communicating with and learning from, that is, kind of giving you a little bit of more closure, that is, kind of saying that you guys are not alone.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think that I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I think that plays a huge factor as to that's why there's so many churches, just because everyone clicks different. So I think how you said relating to different people, I think that ultimately brings comfort. So I think that, like, I've been to numerous churches, and I have a church right now that I go to, and I love it. So I think that when you find a place that can relate to you and really preach the word that God has wrote, that really, you're still listening to who God is and God's word. So I think just the way that they're able to relate it, and then the people around you at the foundation, that does play a huge factor too. Because I think if you just go to a church where you can't really relate to, what do you really, it's not going to bring those feelings. It just
Definitely.
won't.
And I think that goes with anything in life, like workplace too.
Because
Because I've been there where I wasn't really happy in a spot where I was working, and I just made the sacrifice of quitting, and I'm happy to this day,
To add to that, in reference to work, I can say, Abel, that because we work together, I don't know, but I would think that we are very blessed to have a good job.
Dude, I love our job.
We honestly, bro,
I've never worked at a place like this.
And you know what's funny, dude? Like we were training together, so we made a community in a way of kind of, now we're so close, like it's kind of bad, like we take our breaks together, like we get in trouble together, like it's good.
We eat together.
We eat together, like
building a family. That's what's up.
and
we have like a crew.
I'm just really blessed. Like, work is such a fun environment. I think I think actually, not to be narcissistic, but we're probably two key elements to bringing that funness to work and that environment that we have. And I'm just really grateful for that, And when I went into it, I didn't want that. I didn't want to have a community, because I left my old job and I love them. And I was like, I'm never getting that. I was like, F all these guys. These guys are just annoying. Like, I don't want to do that.
They're a bunch of nerds.
It's like this young kid thinks he's about to come in here and do some stuff. He doesn't know and I was just like, oh man. But yeah, I'm really grateful for our work environment. I'm I had told you, I think it was yesterday, that personally, I don't know you personally, but I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the individual you are, like just who you are as a man, for your family, what responsibilities you do, outside of work and with work. Abel, you work really hard. We have a lot of fun, but you work really hard. And in a little way, I envy you, because I see myself in you at your age, and where you're going to be at when you're my age is beyond my years. And I think it makes me a little upset, but more so happy for you, because I want that for you. As a friend, I want you to mold and grow, as an individual and be better than me. I'm just happy that you're taking all the right steps in your life and the opportunities at our hand. But not only that, you're really working hard at them, and I don't, like I said, I don't personally know you as long as maybe your friends or even know you as close, but I want to say to you again that I am proud of you, like as a man and what you're doing in life. So it's good. And I wanted to just jump back on the wagon to answer the question for Nate. You basically answered it right there. because at the end of the day, you were trying to say that you feel comfort in your work environment. So finish that. If you definitely. Like you hit it. You had hit it on the nail with the community. But what a lot of people, I think some who are not really religious, they look for like these routes. Like, is it just the people that makes you feel like that? But when you connect with a church, you have to remember these people are who they are because it's the God in them that shines in that, that makes you feel that radiant, vibrant feeling of good, and I'm happy that when I go to church as well, I'm able to connect with God. It's like a more closer line of connecting Him.
Like when you feel the Holy Spirit, it fills that void.
It feels great. It just makes you happy. And that's something that I can't encounter with talking to my pastor. That's something that I can't encounter with talking to everyone at church. It's only in that moment of me connecting to the Holy Spirit, of me just being happy and feeling that everything is just being washed away. It's a little bit unexplainable, but that's just some of the key things that you do feel. And then what helps is that after, you have this community that just comes and loves you even more, you know, in church, and that it just really just makes you feel so happy. So yeah, so it's really good. All right, guys, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. Stay tuned for this ad, and we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, you're listening to the Space Kaiju Podcast Network. If you enjoy the content and would like to support the network, then head over to the spacekaijuproductions.com website. Click the menu and head over to the support tab. We have special Amazon promotions such as the free 30-day trial of Amazon Music or a 30-day trial of Audible. Not interested in Amazon promotions? That's okay. You can still support the network by heading to the website and clicking through the Amazon banner for any of your Amazon needs. When you click through us, it helps the network grow.
Yo, what's up, guys? We're back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked. And again, we're talking about this is Transparency, Robert Smith, and my guest Abel. Abel, make some noise.
Welcome, Abel.
Sorry, you guys, for that. Your ears is all like blown out. And again, we're talking about the topic of depression. You know, it's pretty serious. It's more not as fun as the other ones, but I think it's really important that we just kind of bring light, enlightenment to the topic, and just, you know, expose depressionists. You know, I do want to kind of bring it on lighter news. You know, how do you go, just diving right back in, you know, what is something that pulls you out of depression? I know we had mentioned like God and church. What are some other things like have you do to like really come back out?
Surrounding myself with, you know, family, friends. I feel that I know it's very hard to do because you just want to like be in the room, as we said. But the times that I have forced myself to try to fight, at least, was just try to surround myself with like good people, people of love, and just try to absorb their energy, because I'm really big on energy. Yeah.
That's really good, and that's really important. And you know what, like straight up, if anybody's listening that does go through depression, one of the biggest, most positive things you can do is actually get the strength to get out of that room and to actually go into gathering with other people. There's never been a moment you regret that moment, because like when you're around people, they are actually bringing your life. You know, it's like they're trying to grab you out, not thinking that, you know, of course not doing it on purpose, but just that energy, you know, being around, surrounded. And if it's good people, happiness, you know, that will collab together to really fight all that negativity that you're going through, you know. And it's really good to not necessarily distract yourself, but just to kind of intertwine into something that's going to really make you kind of just focus on it more, you know. But when you do come to the factor of solitude, you know, it's really important to just be reminded of good qualities and who you are and happiness, and just thinking that, you know what, maybe you've been through this before, you can get through this. And also going back to what I mentioned earlier, you know, I really truly believe that we're designed to take on anything in the world. We as human beings have so much power, man, so much power to do anything. I mean, we made the wheel. Now look how much the wheel has evolved, you know, and help generations. You know, the wheel is one of the most useful inventions in the world, you know, that and cocaine. And so
technology,
man, and that came
imagine
from
in 20 years how advanced things are going to be.
I mean, we thought flying cars going to happen by
Teslas.
now. Well, we got the Amazon. We have the Amazon drones coming out, right?
To drop off packages.
Everyone's gonna be throwing rocks at them.
I've seen that.
So yeah,
that one looks like some shoes.
Got it. Oh no, just some hills. So yeah. So I mean, you know, with that, we're just so powerful and capable of doing so many things. I think, you know, like friends is really good. Family is really good. You know, connecting spiritually, God. I think just remembering
exercising.
You know, exercise is really a huge stress reliever.
Huge.
Like, you know, I don't know why I'm not working out, but
I mean, I don't work out a lot, but exercise, I know for a fact. I've done a lot of research on depression. even though I didn't do it because I don't know, but definitely I know that helps release just like endorphins and stuff.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. One time I went to the gym super. I remember crying like doing the stairs and like running like
Stairmaster.
yeah, Stairmaster. Just like yeah, just fight it like, and you do feel a little bit better after, so that is always good. I think yeah. So I think it's my point being just like surround yourself with these positive qualities in life and just doing these things. On that note, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next segment, and it's going to be the fishbowl. So, like every episode, guys, we're going to go ahead and answer questions. Abel, you're my guest. Go ahead and answer the first question in the bowl.
Okay, sir.
Let's see what we're going to get.
Watch me get my own.
Yeah. We always rewrite the questions, so excuse my handwriting.
Oh, I did.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Okay. So my question was, what are methods you utilize to try and I put parentheses, cope with depression?
Dude, you're right. I think we wrote the same question.
I told you.
Okay, guys,
he
he told me because I always like to come on one question just for ourselves to ask kind of like another. So, okay, so for me, I'm gonna be straight up. It's very derogatory, bro. I masturbate to try to feel better, to get that feeling, like to kind of like. A distraction. But bro, that's crap. Does not work, bro. I've never drunk depressed. That's always been a red flag. So I never try to drink to feel better. I never done drugs. Yeah, I had a very regretful hookup to try to feel better. Huge mistake, and never done it again. But I've done that. Like, yeah. What about you?
I would say for me, it was really big on trying to do things and distract myself with friends. I would say I have like 2 really good friends that have been my friends forever and always are there. I can count on them. Or I would say 3 actually. So I think that I've talked to them. There'd be times where I would ghost them for 2-3 months and I would just be depressed, and they knew, but I would try to fight it. But I think at that point in my life, it was too hard for me to fight. But the only ways that I was able to really to distract myself and be happy and enjoy myself was just to surround myself with good friends and just laugh. I think for me, I would just try to laugh and maybe not like masturbate or something. But I do think another thing as well, I was always, when I was younger, on the chase of like talking to a lot of girls. And I think that was always trying to get maybe the adrenaline, I don't know, to try to distract myself. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I don't think that was healthy. So I would say those 2 things is just friends.
And I just want to clarify that. So you're saying like
when I was young,
like he's married now.
I'm married now. Don't get me in trouble, Robert.
The thought of like talking to multiple girls was this hype that kind of like made you feel really good, and that was like good to kind of distract yourself.
Yeah, I used that to really like, that kind of gave me like a high in a weird way.
Like a confidence high. Just knowing that the fact that you were able to, just communicate with a female and just like, confidence, like.
Yeah, I would say so. As far as, like with me, I've been into sales, and this may sound just weird, but I really like sales because I like the aspect of being able to have a conversation with someone and not sway them,
win them over,
open their mind to what you're saying. So I think that for me, I use that with women.
I get it.
To the point where it was a game.
Yeah.
So when I was depressed, and I think that probably ties into some of the things that happened, like with my parents growing up and stuff like that, I would use that as like a sense of like high. Like that's what it kind of was. Very weird. I never really admitted that as the first time ever. Yeah. But no one's ever really asked.
Yeah. That's crazy. And it's crazy because like the core of that is depression. And that's something that just takes place like all the time, like with young cats, like just trying to, the thought of like talking to all these girls, and who knew that the reason why you were doing it was a core of depression, you know, and to cope and to try to feel better, you know?
Yeah, it was more so like I wasn't fine with myself, if that makes sense. I had to get gratification somehow from others, win someone,
And then you
like
became
you said,
greedy.
over.
You became greedy, and you just try to see how much you
Weird.
can get.
Yeah.
And more and
It's
more
kind
and
of
more.
bad, yeah.
That's crazy. That's
I'm not
pretty
proud
real.
of that though. There's been a lot of mistakes that I've made, and a lot of things that I regret that contribute to my emotion, because along the way there's a lot of people that I hurt. A lot of, you know, it's not healthy or not okay, I think, to mess with people's emotions like that, coming from me having messed up emotions.
Yeah.
But, so I'm not definitely proud of it, but that is one of the things that I can really say
That's good.
that I would try to do.
That's really good that you grow from that too. You know, you being married and not have to worry on that. That's awesome. And, you know, I hear you talk about your wife all the time, dude. Like, I can tell it's very, you know, good. You guys have I mean, from what I'm seeing, you guys have a very good, healthy relationship. So I'm really happy for you guys. You definitely seem content with that. So
Stop looking at Instagram. I'm just kidding. Social media. Just kidding.
that was for if she's listening.
We're cool. We're cool. She's a great.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and answer our next question. Watch me get mines now. Let's see.
Mines.
It is my question I wrote, but I think this is from, so this was one of the questions that we got from social media. It was, how do men and women deal with depression differently? So how do men deal with it differently compared to women?
What was her name? Bianca?
Yes.
Thank you, Bianca, for the question.
She's actually one of our guests that we had.
Cool. Yeah, I was thinking about it like prior to coming, and I asked myself that yesterday. I would say that I don't think necessarily there is a way that men and women deal with depression differently. Mm-hmm. I would say that I believe, like we said earlier, there's more of a negative connotation with being a man and having depression. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's not as aware. I think that really there's certain methods that you can use and try to utilize, like exercising. I think it's pretty universal, to be completely honest with you.
That's true. I think so too.
I don't necessarily think that a woman needs a different way to handle depression.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty universal. There's different, I think, I would say, levels.
Like a frequency, obviously, like when it comes to like a, what is it called when, you know, the females get, like when they're older and they hit
menstrual cycle?
Menopause,
yeah.
What did you say?
Menstrual cycle.
That is, this is a good reason why we should have a female here for this question.
Yeah.
But you know, what I'm saying, like we have to kind of curate to them and make sure that they are okay when it comes to that time, because we honestly don't know that aspect of it, you know, when it comes to, I actually have no clue. So until I'm educated about it, then you know what I'm saying?
Well, I can say that, like, women, you know, being a more emotional being, it can be somewhat challenging. Yet I cannot speak for a woman itself, but I imagine, you know, quote, you know, don't kill. We know it's 2019, women. So
don't kill Robert.
We've seen Avengers, so you know, like, I think that it can be more challenging to them to kind of come down more. For us, no, you know what? Right? No,
I think it's challenging for men.
It's the same thing. I think because we have to put on more of a mask, especially for families. You know, for our woman, you know, just the women.
I think it's more accepted for a woman.
Yeah, and for men, it's taboo, and that's the highlight that we need to suppose about. Take back to 2019. What about men's right? You know,
because then because harnessing that negative energy and trying to hide it and not wanting to admit it to other people,
you're gonna combust, and you're gonna combust.
It's bad.
And most cases, that can come in a negative way of you just lashing out vocally, physically, you know, and it just leads to different
addictions.
So, I think it's frowned upon that we're not, you know, able to be like this, which is ludicrous because, like you said, there really isn't any difference between the men and women. Mm-hmm. You know, we're both the same beings. We just have different ways of coping. Not necessarily different ways of coping. We just, maybe a female can take a little bit. No, there's nothing at all. No difference.
Honestly, I was trying to think about that question.
And on that point, I think what's important just to moving forward is as a female and a male, when it comes together, maybe like when, you know, if you're married, the connection there needs to be communication and openness, because if there's if there's a mask, or if there's a I think there's actually a book, and I haven't like got too far into it. It was actually someone bought it for me. It's called The Mask of Masculinity, and I think the answers are in there. So until I read upon it more,
we'll revisit this one day.
definitely.
We definitely
and we maybe have a female on the podcast.
That'd be
because
cool.
At the end of the day, it's all perspective, and that question was a tough one, honestly.
We'll actually revisit. We have a specific topic that we're going to talk about. I think I'm going to make a note and we'll bring that back up. So
very cool.
Keep it locked, and we'll get that one back. All right, we have another
Question number 3. Yeah, this definitely is Robert's writing.
Do you want me to read it to you?
What is this?
Okay, wait.
I got it. No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding. Have you used substance? I'm assuming, have you used any substances to cope with depression?
I guess I personally have never done drugs or drink anything. Like I said, like the whole, I know I kind of brushed over it, but masturbating, that comes from porn, so in a way, like using pornography to feel better, and that's something I've done, when I'm depressed, so that's definitely real, and that's definitely something I have done. So what about you?
Yeah, I used to drink like a lot of alcohol.
So try to feel nothing?
When I was depressed, and smoke a lot of weed. I still smoke weed, like here and there. I don't think has ever really affected me as far as mental state wise. But alcohol, there was a point where like I was literally drinking every night.
Really?
For
what would you
months.
drink? Like light stuff?
Just hard alcohol.
Really?
Yeah, I would every night I would get like a cup with some ice, and I would just throw in like some Jack Daniels or something, and I would just drink it.
Huh?
And that's when I would stay in my room, and I would do it because like it would just make me just not feel. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. All right, let's move on to our last question. And what do we have? It says, what was the worst interpretation of depression you have had or seen? So not necessarily had or seen. Go ahead, Abel, you can go first.
I think that's a hard question, but this is what my best answer. I believe that from my perspective, someone who is so depressed and just so out of it to the point where they feel they're not worthy of having social interaction, worthy of living a beautiful life. Right now, I feel I'm in a really good place. I still obviously battle emotions, ups and downs, but I truly feel that I deserve to be happy. I deserve to live this amazing life. I only have one life.
Yeah.
And I feel it's my right, and I love myself, and I deserve it, and I think everybody deserves that.
Yeah.
Like I told you, when you told me you're proud of me, I told you I was proud of you.
Yeah.
And that I truly feel that everybody deserves to be happy.
Yeah.
And I think when someone isn't in touch with that, and I've been there, I'm sure you've been there. Have you ever been there, Nate?
Definitely.
Been there. I truly think that is like very sad, because everyone deserves love and happiness.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Also, it was kind of like asking, like, what was you kind of like worst case or seen case as well? Like, what have you seen, or what probably you would say? Like for me, it would be like the what I shared with you guys about the drive-in.
Honestly, I think the worst case is suicide. I think that.
Luckily, you haven't gone to that point or been to that
Never, no.
point. Have you ever been around someone who's been just so dwelled out? Like,
No.
that's good.
I haven't. That's why it's a hard question for me to answer. I just really haven't. Aside from like me, I've heard stories of people cutting themselves, and I've seen scars of like girls that I've talked to that have cut themselves.
Yeah.
But it's after the fact. I've never really seen like nothing firsthand.
I have an energy, not to be narcissistic, of people are attracted to me. And I have all walks of life people approach me and really just open up, and no names. I definitely encountered someone I only knew probably a week. The next time I seen them, tell me that, I try to kill myself because I just can't take this. and other things where it makes me sad to share that, because the person that who had told me that was a young girl. She was only 14 years old, and she was saying that, you know, she wanted to work because her parents were legal immigrants, and there was nothing they couldn't do. They were a chance to get deported. They just got kicked out of the house. They were moved out to a cramped 1-bedroom apartment. You know, when you go from a 5-bedroom to 1-bedroom apartment, and she said, she being like 14, saying that she wants to work and do all these things, and she can't take it. It wasn't the worst, but that's just one of the things. And I would always think to myself, I would get so mad, because I'm like, God, why would you have let me even encounter something like that where I'm not that far from it? You know, like, what the fuck, you know, like, why would I, like, this is too much, you know, I'm barely getting by. Like, I'm my own individual, you know, no one and then it just goes down. It just spirals down. And, when in actuality, what happened is that God has already equipped me what I'm going through to give that person advice to help them, because I did in that way. And it was tough. You know, it's definitely something you have to put on a poker face. I have to be strong for that person, you know, even though I'm not necessarily going through, but I think of that as God giving me that strength to say, you know what, like, I'm here. Like, even though you're not talking to God, I believe that God dwells in me is going to be that comfort for you in that moment. And that's how I was able to get that strength that I didn't know would come from, because I'm going through the same thing to help somebody else. And that's just an example of how God can use people. But more so, that's just something that I encountered. That's one of the scenarios I just want to share. It's
crazy.
Yeah, it was really, really hard, you know. And I deal with a lot of mental illness people. I used to serve. I used to feed the homeless once a week and promote at night. And I used to come across a lot of mental illness. That's my first time I walked up. The library in Pomona, I walked up to somebody at night and they were shooting up. I don't know what they were doing. They were like smoking something, but they were like doing drugs. And I've never seen drugs like that. And I don't like drugs. Like, me coming from a drug addict mother, like I'm just not with that. And I was so scared because I had to go up and like ask them if they want food and like talk about God. And I was just like, oh God, I can't do this. And I was legit scared. And, but I found the strength to do that. I know this portion is where we're going to talk about closing remarks, but I can't help but to not leave this podcast without saying to you, Abel, if there's something that we can talk about what you're dealing with depression, ongoing dealing with depression, that maybe we can help in that way, I would love this opportunity to do that, just to kind of like expose that. I think in a moment of having conversations like this is to help and to bring awareness and to use this pedestal to help a community. So if there's something that maybe you wouldn't mind sharing, that I can probably, or even Nate, that we can kind of just like help in that way, or maybe likewise, you know.
I can share something if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And then maybe you could piggybank. I actually just wanted to piggybank off of what you were saying about, you know, being there for that girl, and putting on a bold face. For me, it's the biggest effect I see is the spread of an environment. So it all starts with an environment of any place, like
the product of environment,
workplace, household, anywhere you go. If that's how I got my depression, you know, from the workplace, from where I was working before. Just seeing the amount of energy that I would bring, the enthusiasm that I would bring for the passion that I was teaching and where I was, and especially working with kids. Like, I love working with kids. I love giving them, you know, something to look forward to, whether it's video production, learning photography, now learning podcasting. But when it comes to, you know, other people, like, I'm not throwing shade on, like, you know, other people, because I get it. We all have problems, but when the problems affect the workplace and other people, like, just to say this, I was in a depressed place when I was at my last job, and I was just not in a good place. But I did go to the gym. I did find the gym. At the end of my career there at that workplace, I started going to the gym. So I started kind of getting out of that slump. And then once I figured out that, you know, working out consistently and staying in shape and you know, eating a little bit better, it all matters, you know. But I mean, ever since I've left that job, I mean, everywhere you go, you will always find, you know, certain people that, you know, rub you off the wrong way, or not rub you off. That sounds ridiculous.
This is bad energy.
But that's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's all about the energy. So at the end of the day, like I know a lot of people get depression from, you know, just being around the negative energy.
Yeah.
And me, it's to get out of depression, I have to find people, surround myself with people that are going to give me that positive energy.
But I want to respond back to that, you know, like the moment where I shared it with the girl is that, you know, I wasn't too far where she was coming from. And, you know, it was hard, you know, if I were, because she brought that energy, let that resonate with me. You know, sometimes we have to remember that we have to just be strong no matter what, you know, and things that we go through in life, we're well equipped to handle anything. And that's, you know what, I take that back, because it's life is fucking hard. I'm not going to take that from anyone. And we're not here to say you can get through anything. Yes, of course we can. But when you're in a moment, it's a different situation. So I just want to be accountable for that. But what I would say is that we have to be strong in a way for other people, even in environments that are negative. So like with work, sometimes I want to be really upset, but I think you see me, I was quieter the other day when I didn't go to lunch with you guys, and I was, you know, I just had to do things with court. I mean, I just with the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
Customer.
And I remember, the customer had sent me off, and, you know, I remember like, I went home early that day, and usually I knew I wanted to stay and I wanted to be stronger. That's always the goal, no matter what, because I noticed that my energy, well, just how me, can affect others. So I knew that I had to somehow come out of that, because I'm affecting other people, and I didn't want that to happen. But the best thing I did in that situation was to leave, because I wasn't able at that moment to take on anymore. So I was like, I had to remove myself from the environment before I create this poison. But my point for you, Nate, is that sometimes, you know, we have to find this strength, even being in an environment, to just keep pushing and find this common denominator where you can find this internal happiness in yourself, to not let the other person's energy affect you. You know, from being work, or people live in situations where they don't like the living environment, but they have to find something in that environment that keeps them pushing and keep them going without being affected by that, you know? And I think we talked off air about like certain things. So, you know, it can be like negative, but you have to look at it in a different way to keep going, you know?
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
And also, I've also, and I won't say any names, but, you know, I've had this scenario play out where life is going perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. And you know, you look after your friends. You know, you have your close set of friends, and you know exactly who they are and what kind of person they are. But when you get a text message of a picture of someone's wrist and it's just all slit up, then you have something to worry about.
Oh, yeah.
And I've gotten that text message before at 12 midnight, you know, and the first thing that happens is through the group message of, you know, other friends that we know of, it spread a little bit, and we all found out, you know. And so we all just tried to call the person and, you know, let him know that we're here for him. And it's a tough situation, and we didn't know how to go at this, you know, as a group of friends who are far away from where he's at and don't even know where he's at, you know. And so that was a tough situation to go through. So I'm a diabetic, so my blood sugar just went from about to go to bed to all the way down to shaking, because I'm worried about one of my greatest friends. And it was tough. And still, and I get, like, you know, sometimes we're put into these situations where you know, we have to dig and kind of be strong for other people. But if I can, and it's tough to say this, mm-hmm. and hopefully in the future, me and him are in a good place. But an analogy where, if you've seen the movie Holes, some holes are dug, right, mm-hmm. by us, ourselves. And if we try to save other people, sometimes we have different size shovels to save them. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's the toughest part. We can try to keep helping people at the end of the day, and try sticking down that shovel down there to get them to catch it. But, and then just, you know, that's all I'm trying to say.
No, yeah, definitely. And it goes back to the old saying, like my grandma would say, like, you can't fill a cup that's already full, you know, which is really unfortunate. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think being a support system and being there for people and just trying is the best thing we can do.
This is what I was getting at. You gotta try your best. And I like what you were saying earlier. You're happy for yourself. You have to be happy, content with yourself. You have to take care of yourself. You know, at the end of the day, you could care about every pet in the world. You could care about every human being in the world, but you can't stress the things you cannot control. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're here for yourself and the people you can, try to keep on.
Yeah, that's really important too. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that and just intertwining with this.
Yeah, I feel that you can only really like help yourself.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's rough. You just really have to try to value yourself and really just try to push on. Because like you said, different shovels, if they're trying to help out, you could have 5-6 friends that are just trying to talk to you consistently and always be there for you. But sometimes it's just, it's very, very hard.
I think affirmations are a really key thing to help you remind you of who you are. Having a good support system, but they can only do so well. It really is the battle with yourself.
It takes work. It's not easy.
It really isn't. Are you able to just let yourself sit there and do that? That's what I'm saying, man. Like, we're so much powerful, and when we're in a slump, just think of how much we're wasting, really wasting time, that we can self-improve or helping others or do productive things, and I think that it's hard to come out of it, but at the same time, you really have to get a point to understand and accept that you matter. And also, laziness is a huge factor of depression. You just don't want to do nothing. You have to really break that and just understand that there's so much more to life outside of laziness and just not doing anything. But if it doesn't start the healing unless you get up and really try something, and that's one of the biggest things.
And let me remind you real quick, just this quote, because I thought about this so much, and I just wrote this on my iPhone. Without self-reflection and being consciously aware of yourself, a mirror is a useless tool in seeing who you really are. Remember, people, if you're looking in the mirror and you're worried about what other people are thinking of you, you better throw that stuff out of the water, because that's not what's important. What's important is that you know who you are and you accept who you are.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Abel, do you have any closing remarks for our episode today?
No, I just definitely appreciate it, and thank you guys for the conversation. I think that the most important thing is just to bring awareness, and like when you said the little girl that you were talking with who was 14, it's just what's going on right now with these young kids and a lot of these things that are happening. People overdosing on pills, a lot of different things that are going on in society. I think that there's not enough awareness, and I do see it changing. I do seeing it being brought up a lot more and being a little bit more open. So I just think just building more awareness and just being there for everyone as much as you can and just spreading positivity and love is very important.
Yeah. Definitely. Dude, thank you so much for sharing. It was really good to hear a married man himself perspective on masculinity and depression. Thank you so much for just sharing everything that you opened. So we do appreciate it. Thank you. I'd love to have you next time in the future. I know I spoke to you about another idea, so hopefully we can get that in the works. So you guys stay tuned. Where can our followers follow you at?
You can follow me at Instagram at Abel, Abel, Ariano, Arellano. Yeah.
Okay. That's it.
I only have an Instagram.
That's good. Well, thank you so much. Closing remarks, guys. On a serious tone, I just want to remind everybody that whatever you're going through in life, just know that you are not alone. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to feel alone. You don't have to do this alone. There are people out there that can help you. And if you're listening and you're going through something like this, please let us know what we can do to help you. Reach out to us. Actually, speaking of reach out to us, we officially made a Transparency Instagram page. Please feel free to follow Transparency Podcast on Instagram, where we post updated information and just some posts and stories. Stories are always active, but we'll also please DM us if you want to be a guest on our next episode or in the future, or just come up with some topics, connect with us. Again, this platform of podcasting is great to speak and talk about numerous things, but I'm also using this to connect people in situations like this of finding communion of topics that can be considered taboo and weird or demasculine, you know, but who cares with that? I believe that it's important to expose and bring enlightenment on these subjects, to not only talk about it, but to bring exposure to help others. So thank you guys. Again, this is Robert Smith with Space Kaiju Productions on my podcast, Transparency Robert Smith. Keep it locked for a new episode next week. Thank you guys so much for listening.